and this is going to be up on the YouTube channel for you guys. I'd like you to start off, if you have different colors, you really want to use different colors. The first, I'll do my best to be as neat as possible. Continuing with the labeling, we have a couple of muscles that I want to show on here. You have a sphincter muscle at this location and a sphincter muscle here. And you have another sphincter muscle down here. And remember that a sphincter muscle is a muscle that when it contracts, it decreases in diameter. Going back to labeling, what would the tube be after the stomach? Small intestine. Do you remember the names of the three parts of the small intestine? Duodenum. The duodenum. Jejunum and ileum. Good.
What's the second one?
Jejunum. So if you remember, don't jump in. That's a little mnemonic to help you remember the three sections. Don't jump in. Okay, we have a couple of accessory digestive organs. Up here we have the pancreas. And then this is the liver. And this little pouch here. And we have the gallbladder here.
Is it G-A-L?
Yeah, G-A-L-L. And then over here, what would this larger tube be? And the large intestine has different parts. Ascending, transverse, descending, sigmoid colon, rectum, and anus. So it goes ascending, transverse, descending, sigmoid, and then anus. The sigmoid colon is like an S-shaped region at the end. Kind of hangs. Ascending, transverse, descending, sigmoid, rectum, anus. All right, so now we're going to utilize different colors to show the different processes. So I will do chemical digestion in red. So if it's a chemical digestive process, it's going to be in red. You can use whatever color you want, just keep your colors straight. Sorry for my writing, it's really not so messy, but it just looks horrible. Okay, if it is a mechanical digestive process, it's going to be in purple. And when we look at an absorption process, it's going to be in green. So I'll pause here for a second and let you get caught up with all your labeling for just a second. Okay. So we're going to start off by looking at the mechanical processes that are occurring in the mouth. Digestion starts in the mouth with the mechanical process of Something you guys do in front of your friends every day. Mastication. Now I know it makes some people uncomfortable to talk about this. Some of you do it with your mouth open, which is really rude. Mastication is chewing. You're all masticators. So mastication is chewing. And this is a mechanical digestion process where you're grinding up you're cutting it, you're tearing food, you're grinding it up, you're mixing it with saliva, and you're forming something called a bolus. A bolus, not Ebola. A bolus, which is a ball of chewed up food that's been mixed with saliva, and you swallow that. The bolus then moves down the esophagus towards the stomach. The waves of contraction that carries the bolus of food, those waves of contraction are called peristalsis. Do you have to think about peristalsis? No. Why does this happen without you thinking about it? Because it's smooth muscle under involuntary control. Very good, Jesse. Shout out to Jesse on YouTube. Okay, you also have chemical digestion happening in the mouth. Yes, I'm recording. I'm still recording. While you guys, is she recording? Yes, I'm recording. Okay, in the mouth, you also have saliva. And in saliva, notice I'm in red now because it's a chemical digestion process. We secrete salivary amylase. And salivary amylase breaks down starches into sugars. Notice I haven't used any green yet because we haven't done any absorption. There is no absorption happening in the mouth, in the esophagus, and there's actually no absorption happening in the stomach either. According to the video we watched yesterday, what's the workhorse of the digestive tract? The small intestine. That's where absorption occurs. So, if you eat a piece of bread, when you're chewing on it, the bread gets stuck up in your teeth, up into the cracks and the crevices, and the salivary amylase in your mouth starts to break the bread down, the carbohydrates down, and releases sugars. And it'll start to feel sweet in your mouth. If you don't brush your teeth, you leave all those pieces of bread stuck up inside of your teeth in your mouth, and you have bacteria in your mouth that really like to eat the sugar. So the bacteria eat the sugar, and they release as a waste product acid. The acid sits on the enamel of your teeth and wears a little hole. What's that little hole called? A cavity. A cavity means like an open space. And so you get holes in your teeth, and you don't feel it until it gets down through the enamel, down into the pulp layer in the dentin, until it gets to the nerve, and then that's a toothache. So we prevent this buildup of food on our teeth by brushing and flossing. Plaque is colonies of bacteria that are on your teeth. That's what plaque is. So when you get your teeth cleaned, they go in and they scrape it off. But do the bacteria just like to live on the fronts and the backs of our teeth? Where do they really like to live? In the cracks and the spaces in between your teeth. So what do you have to do to get rid of those? Flossing. And you don't just floss in between your teeth. You have to go up into underneath the gums, into the pockets. And you don't jam the floss up in there. You go really slowly. Because when you jam it up in there, you can cut your gums. So if you have gums that are always bleeding, that means you got a lot of bacteria in those pockets. And you want to, you know, how long are you supposed to have your teeth? Yeah, until you die. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to get dentures or implants. I want to keep my chompers. So you got to take good care of them.
You could lose a couple here and there.
Oh, you can probably lose a couple. But the problem is if you have a diseased tooth, a lot of times the disease will spread in your mouth. And it can affect the health of your heart. How? Because if you have all the time bacteria circulating through your bloodstream, it can damage your heart. So that's why we get our dogs and our cats, we get their teeth cleaned too, because it actually makes them healthier in the long run as well. You know, if you like your dog. If you have a dog that you're hoping is going to die because it pees on your carpet all the time, then you don't get its teeth cleaned and you just kind of let nature take its course.
Some dogs never die.
Sorry, Nellie. That's my dog.
She's gonna watch this and be like,
She's gonna watch this.
The dog's domesticated, but she still pees on my carpet. Okay, moving on. So we have no absorption happening yet. In the stomach, we have some chemical digestion occurring. What are the conditions like in the stomach?
acidic.
It's very acidic. So in the stomach, somebody said it's hot. That's funny.
That was Chris.
So it's very acidic. And HCl, hydrochloric acid. We have a couple of enzymes, gastrin and pepsin. Pepsin breaks down proteins. Does anybody remember what a protein gets broken down into? Amino acids. Oh, somebody remembers their bio. So let's say you get up for breakfast, get up in the morning and you have a nice big bowl of cereal for breakfast. And then you're hungry 2 hours later. So the next day you're like, well, I'm going to have 2 bowls of cereal for breakfast. And then you're hungry 2.5 hours later. So the next day you're like, well, forget the cereal. I'm going to have eggs and bacon and sausage. And you're not hungry and you skip lunch because you're so full still. Why? Because it hasn't broken down yet. Why hasn't it broken down yet?
It's complex.
Well, what's in eggs and bacon and sausage that's not in cereal? Protein. And where does protein get broken down? In your stomach. You're breaking down proteins in your stomach. So a meal that is high in protein is going to last longer. It's going to sit in your stomach longer for as much as 4 hours. And so that's why you're going to have a feeling of fullness for a longer period of time.
Is that black? Is that black or green?
That's black because we're not talking about absorption.
So just a normal color?
Just any color, yeah. How long will food spend in the mouth and the esophagus?
Seconds.
Let's say you're a good chewer. Maybe minutes. Okay? Okay. The name of this first sphincter muscle is the cardiac sphincter. And this first sphincter is the one that wears out and allows stomach acid to go backwards into your esophagus and you experience heartburn. And so people sometimes think they're having a heart attack because they're having pain because the cardiac sphincter is right by the heart. Untreated acid reflux can result in esophageal cancer because your stomach has a protective mucus layer but your esophagus doesn't. And so if you're constantly getting acid up into your esophagus, it can burn and damage your esophagus, and it's no bueno. Usually by the time they find esophageal cancer, it's already metastasized and spread to other organs. Yes?
I have a question. So, is it bad to eat fast?
Is it bad to eat fast? Okay, the problem with eating fast is that you could actually eat more food in a shorter period of time, because it takes at least 10 minutes before your stomach will signal your brain that it's full. And so if you're eating really, really fast, you can pack more food into your stomach before your stomach gets a chance to send the signal to your brain, hey, wait a minute, I'm full. And so you actually eat more.
So, I eat fast. Is that good? No.
Okay, if you're trying to train to be a competitive eater, you have a game again today, I see.
Bye.
Let's go, kid.
Good luck, Paige.
We wish all of our baseball and softball players luck.
They're number 5 in CIF Division 2.
Awesome. The baseball players are? Okay. Shout out to our baseball players and our softball players. On YouTube forever. Okay. So, you know, all of our student athletes, you guys are all awesome. I appreciate your commitment and your personal drive. Okay. Shh. So, when you have an upset stomach and your stomach feels like it's on fire and it's boiling and burning, you take antacids, right? Which neutralize the stomach acid. And that's okay if it's just an occasional thing. To use Tums or Pepto-Bismol, some type of antacid, which neutralizes the acid. But if you have a chronic problem with stomach acid where it's just always kicking up, you're always having, you want to look really long and hard at your diet. And also you might want to start taking an acid reducing medication like omeprazole, which is Prevacid and things like that, which decrease the amount of acid being released by the cells in your stomach. Okay? They're called gastric pits. And if you decrease it, then you're going to not have that acid reflux issue. You don't want to just keep taking Tums over and over again, because the result of that is going to be your stomach will actually produce more acid as a result. Which probably doesn't mean anything to you right now because you're young and you're like, what stomach acid? But someday. Okay, this next sphincter muscle, this next one here, is called the pyloric sphincter. The pyloric sphincter muscle. And that muscle is there to keep the material going, again, in one direction. And now I'm going to switch to purple because I'll give you the name of the material there. Now it's called chyme. And the chyme flows out into the small intestine. But still, we have not done any absorption. We've only been doing mechanical and chemical breakdown. Yes, there is mechanical breaking down going on in the stomach because you have 3 layers of muscle in the stomach. One layer is longitudinal, one layer is horizontal, and one is going at an angle. And so those 3 layers are constantly mixing and churning the food, and that's mechanical digestion. And you don't really know, you're not aware of this unless your stomach is empty. And then it's actually kind of rubbing against itself. And it gives you kind of a nauseous feeling. If you feel nauseated and you're hungry, drink a glass of water, it'll help. Also, drinking a glass of water before you eat a meal helps you to feel full faster because you're putting volume, material into your stomach, and so it's going to feel full sooner. Gastric bypass surgery, they can go in and actually reduce the size of your stomach Your stomach can expand to hold up to 2 liters. Okay, so the pancreatic juices are trypsin, lipase, amylase, and buffers. All right, so trypsin. Trypsin is responsible for breaking down proteins into amino acids. Lipase, what do you think lipase breaks down? Lipids, exactly. Jesse, you're on fire.
I wish I was.
I've heard better.
That can be arranged. Oscar, that can be arranged.
Why'd you put lipase again?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, thank you.
I distracted her. Whoa.
Okay, amylase, what does that break down?
You wrote it again.
Oh my God. There we go. Amylase breaks down starch. And what do buffers do? Do you remember from chemistry?
You know, bubble. No, I actually was just a relationship.
So they reduce and balance acid levels. So you have material coming from the stomach where it's very acidic, and you don't want it to be acidic anymore in the small intestine. And so you have to reduce the acid or make it more alkaline. Another thing that participates in chemical digestion is the bile that's made by the liver, stored into the gallbladder, and then released into the small intestine. And the purpose of bile is to emulsify fats. In other words, you have a big droplet of fat and you want to break it down into little droplets, which can be absorbed. So breaking down fats. So why do you have to take all of these large molecules, proteins, lipids, and starches, and fats? Why do you have to take these large molecules and break them down into smaller subunits? So they can be absorbed. Exactly. Very good. Very good, Sebastian.
I was going to say that.
Okay. So if I'm going to draw the inside of the lining of the small intestine, if we were looking at it microscopically, you would see all of these little finger-like projections. Does anybody remember what those are called? They're not phalanges. Those aren't your hands. Villi? And if you look at the villi up close, if you look at a single villus up close, you would see that on the surface of the villus, there's tiny little, but they're not hairs. They're little projections. Each villus has its own projections called microvilli.
Yeah, I said that.
They're hair-like, but they're not hair, because hair is made out of a protein called keratin. These are extensions of the cell membrane that increase absorption. So they increase the absorptive surface area. Where else have we seen something that becomes highly segmented, highly folded, that allows for lots and lots of absorption or diffusion? The system we just studied, the alveoli in the lungs. The fact that you don't just have one smooth membrane, you have all of these tiny little air sacs, millions and millions of them, so that you have lots and lots of absorptive surface area for the absorption of oxygen. Here you have villi with microvilli on them to increase the absorptive surface area for the amino acids, the glycerol, the fatty acids, the simple sugars, the droplets of fat. Don't forget that you have blood vessels going up inside of each of these villi, and you have an extension of the lymphatic system called the lacteal that run up inside of the villi, which, since you have the outside world meeting the inside of you, you want to have extra immune system forces there ready and mobilized in case, along with your food, comes a bacteria. Ever get food poisoning? Yes, right? Worst thing ever. And if it makes it past the acid in your stomach, if the acid in the stomach doesn't kill the bacteria or destroy the toxin, then once it gets into your small intestine, your body's only way to get rid of it is to move it through as quickly as possible, and that's what you get with why you get diarrhea. And if you have diarrhea all the time, then you're going to become severely dehydrated and malnourished because food is not staying in your small intestine long enough for you to absorb the nutrients from it that you need, or the water. So that's why diarrhea is deadly, because you'll become dehydrated and malnourished. Cholera is the #1 killer of people around the planet, and it's caused by having poor sanitation and contaminated water and food supplies. Okay. And it can be treated with antibiotics, but also is treated with having better sanitation. Okay. Moving on, we'll talk about absorption here in the small intestines. So I'm going to switch to my green color. Finally, we're getting some absorption here.
Oh, never mind. I've been writing the green this whole time.
Okay. So absorption here, what's getting absorbed? Nutrients, as we just spoke about. Nutrients, water, and vitamins. In your stomach, however, there are a couple of things. Alcohol and aspirin can go through the stomach. That's why aspirin is so hard on your stomach. And alcohol, this is why if you drink on an empty stomach, it's going to get absorbed into your bloodstream faster. If you're drunk, however, feeding someone who is already drunk has no effect to sober them up at all. Coffee? No, coffee's a stimulant. Alcohol is a depressant. So the idea of giving coffee is to stimulate your body some more. Nothing but water and thyme. If they're already drunk, that's the effect of the alcohol in their bloodstream. Feeding them a food is not going to sober them up. Okay?
I swear it does.
It does not.
No. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. Okay, it doesn't. Your anatomy physiology teacher is telling you. The only thing that's going to help is water for the hangover and thyme. Why are you waiting? Because your liver is your detoxification organ, and alcohol is a toxic substance to your body, and so your liver just has to break it down. And that's why people who drink a lot have cirrhosis of the liver, because after a while, the liver gets worn out. Yes?
So like when people say, eat something you can sober up, it's a myth.
Yes, eat something so you sober up is a total myth. So drinking on an empty stomach, it gets into your bloodstream faster than drinking if you have a full meal. If your stomach is full, then it's not going to get absorbed as well.
I mean,
Don't drink until you're 21, and then everything in moderation. God, you guys. Don't turn this into, oh, she says we can drink, because it's not about that. Yes, ma'am. Oh, okay. Why do alcoholics become jaundiced? That yellowing of the skin is called jaundice. It's most obvious. If you have fair skin, you can see the yellowing in your skin. If you have darkly pigmented skin, you'll see the yellowing on the sclera, the whites of the eyes. And that's because of a buildup of a pigment called bilirubin that normally gets broken down in your liver. But if your liver is not functioning properly, the bilirubin is going to increase in your bloodstream because your liver's not working, and you'll become jaundiced. And that's a sign that your liver is not functional. The liver is the only organ in your body also, by the way, that can grow back. So you can have part of your liver removed, and it'll grow back. And you can donate a part of your liver and to another person and still survive. Sometimes babies are born and they're jaundiced when they're first born. They're a little bit yellowish because their liver hasn't started working yet. And so they'll put them under these special bilirubin lights. It's an ultraviolet light that helps to break down the bilirubin in their skin. Or if it's a mild case, they tell you to take the baby and lay the baby for 15 minutes in some bright sunshine so that the bilirubin breaks down. Okay? Question?
So why doesn't the light, doesn't UV light cause skin cancer or something? They're not worried about that or anything?
It's not enough. I mean, the bilirubin, they want that to be broken down more than there's more of a concern for the bilirubin levels and the not functional liver than the UV light. The risk is worse. So they kind of, we all need to be exposed to at least, 10 to 15 minutes of sunlight every day so that we can make vitamin D in our skin. So that's one of the reasons why they think that we are all vitamin D deficient, is because we don't get out in the sun at all. And so many of us wear sunscreen on all of our exposed surfaces because we're worried about cancers and things like that, that we're keeping our bodies from being able to make the vitamin D that we need. David, yes.
Okay, you said that bilirubin is C when you start drinking because your liver isn't working as well?
If your liver is not functioning, you will start to have a buildup of bilirubin because it's not being broken down by the liver.
Why is it the same when people smoke? Because I've seen people who smoke and they have no lives.
Well, I mean, I don't know why it could be a liver malfunction. I mean, jaundice is an indication that your liver's not working properly. I'm not too sure about, maybe they smoke and drink. Okay, so can we get through this though? Let's get back to the digestive system. Those are all good questions, but we gotta finish. Okay, so we talked about the liver and the gallbladder. Ooh, let's talk about something else really delicious. I should leave it green because it's kind of green. Oh, maybe I'll make it yellow. Gall stones. Okay. Well, I'll just make a bunch of little rocks. So, gall stones. Gall stones are a solidification of the bile salts. And you can get a blockage of the common bile duct so that the bile can't get out. And this leads to an enlarged gallbladder. It's extremely painful, and it can even burst. It can become infected. And so this is when you would have your gallbladder removed.
How do you avoid that happening?
How do you avoid that happening? Well, I was once told by a nutritionist that if you want to lower your cholesterol level, and bile is like 90% cholesterol, eating an apple a day has so much, keeps the doctor away because it's really high in fiber, and it basically, your gallbladder is going to empty out. And if you're constantly emptying out your gallbladder, then you're flushing it, which is also going to have the secondary effect of lowering your blood cholesterol. Okay? So, sometimes though, sometimes it's just genetic, you just develop, an issue and you have a genetic predisposition to get something. And it's not really anything you did necessarily. It's just you inherited, just like some people make kidney stones, Yes, you can make them. They're like crafts. And then you pee them out and you string them together and you wear them as a necklace. No. Maybe I won't put this on YouTube. Okay. That's kind of gross. Okay, it is gross. Kidney stones. Very, very, very painful. All right, moving on. Now we're going to talk about okay, so moving on. I don't know how much of this is going to actually get recorded because I keep hitting the thing and pausing it. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the absorptive process that's going on in the large intestine.
That's green, right?
That's green. Sorry for my colorblind gentleman. Or it just doesn't show up well. Okay. Okay, green here. Shh. We're going to talk about the E. coli in E. coli. That looks so messy. Let me write that again. Okay, isn't that what's in Chipotle? Okay, E. coli. E. coli. I know. No, E. coli. There's been outbreaks of E. coli in bags of salad and things like that. Okay, we all have our own strain of E. coli in our lower GI tract, okay? It's going to be in our colons. It shouldn't be in our stomachs or our small intestines. If it gets up there, then we got a problem. We got a severe case of E. coli poisoning, which is like the worst stomach flu ever. Gosh, how would E. coli get there? From fecal oral transmission. So people go to the bathroom, and they don't wash their hands, and then they make the food, and they are transmitting fecal bacteria into the food. Or in the process of picking crops, cow manure that has E. coli in it, stuff doesn't get washed properly, or you have some other fecal transmission. So that's why they say, you know, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Yeah. And sing happy birthday or something when you wash your hands. Shh. Water is the main thing that is going to be absorbed in the large intestine. And in that water, we have salts, minerals, and from our friends E. coli, vitamin K. Okay, vitamin K. It's really hard to read. Sorry, you guys. From our friends, the E. coli, we have vitamin K. Vitamin K is important for blood clotting. So, E. coli, this is a symbiotic relationship with us. It's a mutualistic symbiotic relationship. We get the vitamin K. The E. coli gets a free meal and a place to live.
I was just wondering something.
Let me finish before you ask me another question. So, food spends how long in your large intestine?
A long time.
24.
About 4 hours. But everybody is different. And the three processes that are occurring in your large intestine are compaction, segmentation,
Damn, I write so neat.
and elimination.
I'm gonna make a song about this.
Lastly, the anus. There are two sphincter muscles in the anus. One is voluntary and one is involuntary. And I'm running out of space there. One is voluntary, one is involuntary. We talked about this yesterday when we watched our video.
Yeah.
One is skeletal muscle, one is smooth muscle. And we learned to control the one that is skeletal muscle, and that's what potty training is all about. Oh, little thing we forgot here, the appendix. The appendix is a blind pouch that comes off of the very first part of the large intestine, the cecum. And then this valve here is the ileocecal valve. Ileocecal. Because the large intestine, first part of the large intestine is called the cecum. So that's why you would go from the ileum to the cecum, so it's the ileocecal valve. Large intestine is also called the colon. You'll see it referred to as the colon or the lower GI. Sometimes I call it the poop chute. Oh my gosh, we filled that whole thing up, didn't we?
We're done?
That's our duty.
So now, you guys, you had the drawing. We labeled it together. It's in color. What do you have left to do for this left-hand page? An explanation of the journey that a piece of food makes through your intestines.
There's